for the two prominent parties. Who knows? Maybe even an independent could someday win the presidency. Well, let's not get crazy here. I move passage and yield my time. Arizona Jordan?
Yes, delegate.
Thank you, previous delegate. Chris Jordan from the dry heat state of Arizona. I also firmly stand in support of this proposal, mainly in the interest of third-party candidates. I recognize a previous delegate who voiced concerns about the fact that people are still not going to vote for third-party candidates in an immense manner. That might be true, but I think that the author could recognize that all Gary Johnson needed was that beautiful 5% of the vote. Because he was such a similar candidate to Mitt Romney in many ways, it would not be surprising if Gary Johnson could get that 5%. With 5%, third-party candidates can have a party convention under federal law, which means that the first step is getting their votes now so that they can get the funding necessary to get into the debates in the future. This is a short-term step now to fix a long-term problem with the two-party system. I think we can all recognize the value of a third-party candidate, and that's why I urge you all to support and pass this proposal. I yield my time.
Thank you, delegate. There having been a pro speaker, we now move on to a con speaker. Is there a con speaker on the floor? Kitchens.
Thank you, Chair. Will Kitchens, Wisconsin. Fellow delegates, I stand before you also with my beliefs aligning more with the Libertarian Party than any other. I'm the first to admit that our currently stagnant political climate needs fixing, and I applaud the author for a creative approach to do so. That being said, however, this goes about solving the problem in a very, very dangerous way. Our current system forces candidates to take a strong stand and be clear about their convictions and stances. This proposal would discourage them from doing so, however, as clarity would polarize the voter base and ultimately lead to their demise in the general election. If enacted, this proposal would only muddy the waters and lead to an uninformed populace. Also, as it would almost exclusively reward people pleasers, I feel this proposal would usher in a new era of politics where candidates are intentionally vague, indecisive, and less effective than ever before. Lastly, even the political realm is made more effective through friendly competition. We admittedly have far too much competition at the present time, but this proposal would decrease it to a fault. Only relative moderates would be elected. While I concede our current system has issues, I urge you not to pass this proposal. My fellow delegates, the grass is not always greener. Thank you, and I yield my time to the chair.
Thank you, delegate. There having been a con speaker, we now move on to a pro speaker. Is there a pro speaker on the floor? The chair recognizes Delaware Loftman.
Thank you, Sir Chair Nicholas Loftman, delegation. I reserve my right to yield time for being from Alabama.
That is your right.
Let's jump back 200 years ago. The Constitution was first drafted by Thomas Jefferson. Now, this Constitution, first and foremost, is a guideline for our nation. But secondly, it is a compromise between our original 13 states. A compromise. Now, compromise is a lost term today, but it's a term that this bill is attempting to revive, and if passed, successfully will revive. This compromise will break the stalemate between our current liberal, conservative, Democrat, Republican political party system today. Now, back to 200 years ago, George Washington. You all know him as our first president. I know him as the #1 proponent against political party systems. Political party systems that have ruined this nation. I now yield time to Yin from Alabama.
Thank you, Delegate Yin from the family Alabama. I would like to first address some concerns that previous delegates have made up. First, I would like to say that we will not become a nation where the political election is a complete circus like the European Union because of the fact that we are united by our fabric of democracy. If you look at the European Union, it's 17 member states and all of them have different cultures, which means that we're not going to have some sort of ludicrous policy or any far-right or far-left policies that will be passed. Furthermore, previous delegates have brought up the names of Gary Johnson or Ron Paul. And I would like to take you back to the 1896 election where William Jennings Bryan and the Populist Party were sucked up by William McKinley and the Republicans. Now you might say, oh, the Populist Party was very popular indeed. However, the fact that they were sucked up into a coalition in which they thought that their views would be represented was a total failure. So the fact that you say, oh, well, we can just have coalitions between the two major parties, that's not going to be true because history has shown again and again that these parties are going to disrespect the views of the minority.
I'm sorry, Delegate, your time has elapsed. I have been a pro speaker removed to a con speaker. Is there a con speaker on the floor? The chair recognizes Kentucky Mans.
Aaron Vance, representing the Commonwealth of Kentucky, Sir Chair, and I reserve the right to yield my time to the delegate from South Carolina, Barbaros.
That is your right.
I find that this has a con when you read into the Constitution within Article 1, Section 4. The times, places, and manners of holding elections for senators and representatives shall be prescribed in each state by the legislature thereof. But the Congress may at any time, by law, make or alter such regulation. And of course, with that there to stand, you may give the idea that this could pass even against the idea of constitutionality with an overriding clause right there. But in the best interest of my Commonwealth, I can only believe that as an advocate for the Commonwealth of Kentucky, that this is not in our own best interest. And the other 49 states may agree or they may disagree. But as a delegate for Kentucky, I can only believe that to be such for my own state. I yield my time. The delegate from South Carolina.
Lorenzo Viscanonico from the great state of South Carolina. So, since I'm from Italy, where we actually have this type of ballot, I can tell you that it does not work because third parties either end up being like comedians, like that's what ended up being in Italy because a comedian got into power, or end up actually being sucked into like being dominated by the major parties themselves. If we actually look to America, the author argues that this negative advertising will not be implemented, but actually will provide a much more powerful political incentive for these major parties to use negative ads to take out the third parties. And that's why this proposal will ultimately be ineffective at promoting third parties. This is explained by Professor Anscombe from MIT in a 2008 study published in the American Journal of Political Science, when he explains that media is 4 times as effective as newspapers. And that's why negative advertising is able to decrease voting turnout by 5% in each state. And that's why not as many people will actually show up to vote it. But positive advertising will actually allow these specific parties to have a unique advantage. And that's why still the Republican Party and the Democratic Party will still be able to dominate because they're going to have far more money to be able to spend.
I'm sorry, Delegate, your time has elapsed. Before we go any further, I have the intent speeches for the first 2 proposals. For Proposal 467, the pro-intent speech is Brock Trotter of Oklahoma. The con-intent speaker is Tom Carroll from New Jersey. For Proposal 209, the pro-intent speaker is Mohit Gandhi from South Carolina. The con-intent speaker is William Brown from Wisconsin. At this time, the pro-intent speeches for Proposal 11 and 86 are also open right now. Please, as I said before, make your way to the parliamentarian discreetly, quietly, as to not disrupt proceedings, delegates.
Suzanne?
Thank you. I haven't been a con speech. We now move on to a pro speaker. Is there a pro